Hello soulmates, welcome to Boomsy Line Fashion World. Today we will learn how to sew this gown. It's an A-line gown. The sleeve is also an A-line sleeve. So I use black fabric to replace part of the front in the fashion fabric, and also to replace part of the hem of the sleeve. If this is what you're interested in, please keep on watching, like and share. Then also subscribe to my channel to help me grow. Thank you. So I used 3 yards of this Ankara fabric, but I cut out 2 yards and fold it into four. So the measurement for this folding is my hip divided by 4. I added 5 inch for ease and also sewing allowance. If you want it more free, you can add about 7 inches sewing allowance to yours. So I'll mark my starting line here. After marking the starting line, I'll go ahead to take my shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 16 inches. I'll divide it by 2 to have 8 inches. I'll also add half an inch because I'll be adding sleeve. So it will give me 8.5. I'll place the mark A. I'll go ahead to mark my neck depth. For the back, I have 1.5 inch, and the neck width, I'll be using 3.5 inches for the neck width. So the neck width of the front and the back are the same, but the neck depth are different. I'll use my curve ruler and curve this to form a round neck. So after that, I'll also take my tape and measure the depth of my neck depth for the front. And the neck depth for the front will be slant. It will be in form of V shape. Actually, it's not necessary you mark and cut out the depth of the neck front. You might not cut it out. You can do the cutout if you want to add the plain fabric that you use to replace it. So on that shoulder part where I measure my 8.5, where it stopped, I'll come down by 1 inch to mark my shoulder slope. I'll connect it in a slanty form rather, to the point of the neck width, and it will form my shoulder slope. I will also mark my armhole depth. My armhole depth here, I'm using 8 inches. So what I have is how I got this armhole depth. I divided my bust circumference by 6, and I also added 1.5 inches to get my depth. I'll mark my bust point. I'll also mark my waistline. My bust point is 12 inches. I will add 0.5 inch to it to get 12.5. My waistline is 17 inches. I will add 0.5 to it to get 17.5, because I'll be using the 0.5 to join the shoulder of the front to the back. So I'm connected those points into a straight line. I also do the same thing on the chest line, which is our armhole line. I don't need to take the measurement of the hip because it's free down there. We don't actually need the hip measurements. So whatsoever I have on the shoulder line, which is 8.5, I'll mark the same thing on the chest line, which is the line of our armhole, and I'll connect it into a straight line to give me my armhole line. So I'm going to make curve here. I'm going to curve the armhole for the front. How to get this curve? We will measure the armhole line and get the midpoint. Come in by 0.5 for medium size, 0.5 for 1 inch for the plus size, and you connect it and curve it down there. So I'm going to take the circumference measurements. Here I have two different armhole, the front armhole and the back armhole. So I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. My bust circumference divided by 4 plus 0.4 plus 1 inch for ease and 2 inches for the sewing allowance. The same thing I have on this chest line. I'm going to mark the same thing on my bust line. I'll proceed to the waistline, which is the half length. I'll measure my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll add 1 inch of ease. You can add 2 inches of ease if you don't want it tight on your waistband, and also 2 inches sewing allowance. So I'll connect from the chest line there to the bust and to the waist. So I don't actually need to measure the hip line measurements. I'll get my straight ruler and I'll connect it in a slant form to the hem. right from the waist, the half length, and I'll connect it to the hem there. I'll connect it to the hem. So after connecting this, we are done with the drafting of the gown. So what I have to do next is to get my scissors and cut the back neckline first. So after cutting it, I'm sorry that part is not really showing. I'll also cut the shoulder slope. I'll cut the markings from the hem and also to the armhole part. So what I'm going to do is to cut out the back part of this dress first. After I separate it from the front, I'm going to work on the back separately and also work on the front separately. So here is what I have. I've separated the back from the front. I'm going to work on the front first. So here, I've already cut out the neck depth. So like I said earlier, you don't necessarily need to cut this out. You can as well leave it and just mark the depth. Then you cut it out later. So I'm replacing it there. Why I have already cut out the back neckline. So here I'll be using 8 inches. I'm using 8 inches for the neck depth. On that 8 inches line, excuse me, I'll go in by 2 inches. This is my 8 inches. That is where it stops. I'll go in by 2 inches. I'll be marking these 2 inches to the hem of this gown. So I'll mark these 2 inches to the hem, then I'll cut it out. So on that 8 inches line, so you just connect it slantly to the neckline. I'm marking the 8 inches line again to make it visible. So on that that nape of your shoulder, that neckline there, I'm going to mark that 8 inches there and I'll reconnect it to touch that 2 inches. On the 8 inch, I mark 8 inches from shoulder to wherever the 8 inches get to. From there, I will go in by 2 inches down to the hem of this fabric. Then I'll cut it out. So it will be a little bit slanty on the top part. So I'm going to cut out 2 inches, but I have this folded strip of fabric here which measures 2.5 inches. So because I'm going to be using 0.5 to sew on this actual fabric here, that is why I'm cutting out 2.5 on that plain fabric so that it will replace that 0.5 inch. So I'm going to cut this 2 inches mark out. So that is where my 8 inches stopped. I'm going to mark to be confirmed again. So after that, so I'm cutting it slantly to touch that neckline. So this is what we have. So I will notch that part, that 8 inches part. I'll mark it again and give it a little notch. So I'm going to separate the two. Since we have cut that out, we have two pieces. We have two pieces for the front part. So I'm going to place this black fabric. It's folded into two. I'm going to pin it down. I will pin it down to the hem. After pinning it down to the hem, I'll also do the same thing to the other side. After pinning both plain fabric, the plain black fabric on both parts, then we are going to sew with 0.5 inches. Sorry, with 0.5 inch. After sewing it with 0.5 inch, I'll bring it here to show how it looks like. So I'm going to take this to my sewing machine. I'll follow that shape, that slant shape, to sew this. So here is the back part of this dress. So I'm going to use this piece of fabric for the facing because the back is on fold. So I will not be using zipper nor button for this back part. So because the neck depth for the front is wide enough to pass through the head while wearing this. So I'm going to place the folded part of the facing to the folded part of this fabric. I'll place this on top of each other. I'll trace the neckline out using scissors to cut it. After cutting this out, I want the length of the facing to be 3 inches. So I'm going to mark 3 inches right from the neckline there. I'll mark 3 inches round. Then after marking 3 inches round, I'm going to cut this. So here is what I have after marking the 3 inches round. Then I'm going to cut it out. So after this, I'm going to place it on that neckline of the back. Then I will use 0.5 inch to sew. Before sewing it, I will use my pressing iron to fold this, the down part. So I'll just fold this in and I'll iron it so that I'll be able to stitch on it when it's time for me to sew. So here I have sewn this black fabric onto the front part of the dress on both sides. So after sewing this, I'll measure where that 8 inches got to, that our neck depth for the front. Then I'll slightly notch this part. I'll give it little notches from that neckline. Where I'll be giving it notches is the place that I sew. The sewn part will be notched, so just tiny notches because that place is a bit curvy, so that when I iron this, it will be relaxed. So after these notches, so I'm marking this. Yes, I'll place it on each other and put it on one side. Then I'll work on the back part of the fabric. So I've stitched the facing to the neck part, and I've also stitched the down part of the facing separately. So I'm going to place it against each other, the front and the back, using that facing to turn the neckline of the front, just the way we used to turn the neckline, so that it will be neat on the neck part. So after turning this, I'll go ahead to sew this with 0.5 inch, the allowance I left while cutting. So here is what we have. I'll just use it to fold it and sew. So after sewing it, I'll take this to my sewing machine. I'll sew the shoulder of both front and back together. Then I give it a press, a good press. So after that, I'm going to tidy up the back facing. I'll press it. Then I'll put hemming gum. I'm going to place hemming gum inside it so that it will give us neat finishing. So here I'm trying to arrange this very well. Actually, I've not pressed it. So after arranging it, the allowance that I left on the side, I'm going to sew in the allowance. Then here is what I have. After sewing in the allowance, I will iron the hemming gum on the neck part so that it will make it stay it will make it relax and also stay in a place. The facing will not be coming up when it is worn. So I've cut this sleeve off camera. It's just normal big sleeve. Thank you for watching. See you on